Okay, good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce Mike Chang from Cackle Communications to commence the webinar.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar session. Before we start, just want to note that today's session is being recorded, so we will be able to share the link with you after the session. And also, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom, and we'll aim to answer all these questions at the end. So, welcome everyone. My name is Mike, and I'm the director of Cackle. I'm sure most of you will be quite familiar with Cackle and what we do, because we would have some form of business dealings in the past, or I might have even met some of you personally. Today's webinar is about unified communications, cloud phone system, and Microsoft Teams calling, and how you can improve your business productivity by allowing your employees to work together collaboratively, as well as keeping your employees connected to your customers. It's our privilege to have Stephen Hodges from SS4 to join us today. He will later elaborate on the importance of unified communication as a service and how this can help with your business productivity. But before we jump into the main topic, I would like to use this opportunity to give you a quick overview of the type of product and services that Cackle provide as a company. Most of you would have known Cackle to be your specialist supplier of business communication headsets. Yes, this is how the company started 17 years ago, and it's infused in our DNA. This is still who we are today. We are still one of the largest business communication headset supplier in New Zealand. However, over the years, we've also evolved to become the following. We are a one-stop IT and telecommunication hardware shop. So we supply more than 100,000 products, and we are an authorized partner for all major technology vendors. Vendors such as Apple, Microsoft, HP, Dell, Lenovo, Logitech, Acer, Asus, etc. And the list just goes on and on. So if you're looking for any technology hardware for your home or business, please check with us, because we are most likely to have them. We are also a managed service provider for video conferencing. So here are some examples of our existing customers' video conference setup. It doesn't matter whether you have a greenfield or brownfield deployment. We are a certified integrator for Teams, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom Room. And we can help you design, deploy, and manage your video conferencing spaces. We have the capability to cater for all meeting room sizes, from huddle space to normal meeting room, to boardroom, and to conference halls. We are also a hardware provider for leasing and rental services. As most of you are aware that ever since the pandemic, we've experienced all kinds of issues, and we are forced to adapt to the new normal. One of the things that we deal with on a daily basis is the logistic nightmare and component shortage. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are quite familiar with that. And I know that some of you have ordered your hardware and waited for 3 to 6 months before it actually arrived. And that has largely impacted your plan for your projects. We've launched this service because we understand the importance of business continuity and the frustration of hardware delays. We can help provide leasing options to get your staff set up quickly to work from home, to allow you to take on contractors, to quickly set up for conference trainings events, and to optimize for your CapEx and OpEx budget. And lastly, we are a managed service provider for cloud phone system. When the lockdown first hit, this took a lot of businesses by surprise, because overnight they would need to have everything in place to allow staff to work from home. This means businesses that are still using the traditional on-prem PBX or analog phones, a lot of emergency call diversions were put in place. They ended up paying premium call charges for diverting calls to mobile phones. But at the same time, staff didn't get the full capability of phone system on their mobiles. And this just made working from home so much harder. And now we are 2.5 years into COVID. Working from home appears to be the new normal. And from the looks of it, it's here to stay. So having the right tools for remote working has become mandatory for businesses. I won't go into too much detail around the capability of our cloud phone system because Stefan from SS4 will be covering it thoroughly. I will now hand over the time to Stefan to go over the capability of SS4's cloud phone system. Over to you, Stefan.
There we go. Apologies for the delay and just getting organised there. So good morning, everyone, and thank you to Mike for the time here in being able to work with us to provide this system. Okay. So firstly, just a bit about Access4. So we are an Australian UCaaS vendor, born in Australia, but have a significant presence in New Zealand also. We are a channel-only partner. Now, what that actually means is we don't sell directly to the public. We work with businesses like Cackle and others to provide the service that you want and you need to run your businesses successfully. We are built in the cloud. So we formed in 2016. And everything has been built in the cloud, meaning we are not dealing with legacy technologies and trying to move them into the cloud and having that transition period. Everything is straight into the cloud, and you'll see why that's important throughout this presentation. Both New Zealand and Australian support. As I mentioned, all of our staff are based in New Zealand or Australia and provide support to Mike and his team and our other partners. So we have about 300 other partners that we work with to provide these services. What we are really good at is telecommunications. What Mike is really good at is the hardware and the building blocks around that. And so it's a beautiful partnership to come together to provide you, the customers, with the service that you want to just go about building your business. Now, in 2020, we did win an Impact Award, an industry impact award there for our platform, and that was around the Teams calling. And later on in this presentation, I will get into what that was and why that is so important for this modern workforce. But firstly, what is unified communications? It is a new term. I don't expect many people to be fully aware of what it is. However, you will know it in a number of different forms. So what we're dealing with here, unified communications, is a collection of different technologies. So things like voice, your telephones, videos, chat, so Slack, Teams, all these sorts of other things, presence and collaboration. These are all the things that you will have used along the way. But what this does is having it all in one place actually centralizes the communication. So rather than having an app for Slack and an app for Teams and then your telephone on your desk, it makes it more centralized so that you just need one app to do everything that you need to do. Making it this flexible working environment and access from anywhere environment that we are trying to, that everyone is looking for now. But that's all well and good because most people on this call will know about Teams or will have been using Teams in some form or another. It might just be for internal chat within the office, and that's fine. What this does is now your one app can have your internal communications, but more importantly, your external communications as well. So as a business, you can just pick one service and use that for everything you need. If that's Teams calling, if that's another app, another application or something else, you just need the one across the entire business, making this modern workforce that we keep talking about and we keep hearing about. But to understand all of this, I wanted to start with a little history lesson. Now, it's going to take a bit to cast your minds back, but before the pandemic, we actually used to have these things called offices, large buildings located in towns, and people would actually go to these offices 5 days a week and do their work. Now, because we had people in those offices 5 days a week, we would put our infrastructure in there, such as our servers and our telephone systems were all housed inside these offices because this is where the people were. So obviously we put our hardware in there and we put our phone systems in there, we put everything we need. But March 2020, that all changed when this guy showed up. So now we were left with a problem. We still had our big offices, we still had all of our infrastructure inside these offices, but now we had our people outside the offices and at their houses. So now there's a disconnect between the ability to get the job done and with people in an office and people being stuck at home. What we do and what Access 4 does is actually builds, we have everything located up in the cloud so that you can now access your phone systems, your servers, or everything else, whether you're at home or whether you're in the office. So all of your hardware, all of your telephone systems are all now managed from the cloud. What we've seen, there's been so much written about the pandemic and what it's done and what it's changed, but I really wanted to just give you a bit of a snapshot about what this actually means. Effectively, what we've seen is this was always going to, where we are now, was always going to happen. However, it was probably, depending on who you talk to, it was around about a 5 or 10 year cycle before we ended up in this place where we are now. However, it was the case of a few months is where we ended up. From March 2020 to about June and July, when everyone got settled. You can see down the bottom there that article about how much Microsoft Teams calling grew and Zoom calling grew and all this sort of stuff. We had to get used to this different way of working. So now, once we had this Band-Aid solution, I mean, we all thought we were just going to be back in the office relatively soon after. You know, June, July, August, we'll be back, and it would just be a bit of oh, wasn't that fun working from home? Now the realization's hit, but that's not going to be the way forward. And the way that we all work has changed dramatically. And so we, as businesses, have to change to suit these new working environments. And this is where unified communications comes in, providing those flexible lifestyles. The key thing that has been around this is a lot of this research was trust was now built in employees to be able to continue working at the same level that they were pre-pandemic, whether they're in the office or whether they're outside the office. And there are lots and lots of research articles being done to say that that is the case, that people can be just effective, whether they're in an office 5 days a week or whether they're at home for some of that time, whether they're in a library, whether they're, no matter where they are. So how does Access 4 support this, and why are we unique in what we do in working with Mike and his team? So Access 4 has a system called Broadsoft over here, which is a telecommunication system, enterprise-grade telecommunication system that can provide as much or as little calling functionality as your business needs. Now, integrated along with this are other products which you may be familiar with, such as Microsoft Teams, Cisco WebEx, these sort of platforms that people have already got used to through Teams, they now want to keep using post this pandemic. We're about to integrate with Zoom, and we've also got UJet here, which is another call center product. Overlaying that are some of the other features that you as a business owner need to be able to do your job. So there are things like call recording to be able to manage those calls. There is a whole range of analytics and reporting that we can provide to give you insight on what you're doing. And of course, for all of your hardware needs, that's where Mike and his team come in to provide you everything that you need and what you're looking for. So just looking at the business trends and the challenges now that the last 24 months has thrown up. So what are these trends that are driving the workplace? Now, one of them is here that this employee experience is positively linked to the customer experience. What that means is now that people have had exposure to working from home and they may enjoy it, if people are going to be forced to go back to the office 5 days a week, that is now changing the employee experience, and that can directly flow on to what the customer is experiencing. We are all now a lot more tech savvy. Everyone is a lot more familiar with how to use things like Teams and Zoom and all these other things to get their workplace done. But we need tools to be easy. And what we want to offer is just one tool within the workplace, not 3 or 4 different applications to be managing different tasks within the business here. We're all having more online meetings and collaboration, and it's proving to be a lot more simplified because you can quickly jump on and have questions answered. We are more dispersed, more mobile, and more remote. Now that is just a fact, and the communication needs to keep up with this seismic change that we've seen in the environment. Now, obviously, looking at these statistics here, the distributed workforce more than doubled post-pandemic, where people are now fitting their outside lives in to their working life. Some people are wanting 2 days at home and 3 off, or it's going to be, what we're seeing is it's going to be more of a hybrid workforce that continues on moving forward now. Now, it's quite interesting to see this statistic in the middle here, that professionals spend more than 2 hours a day in meetings. Just pause for a second and just think about that for your own experience, and think about how many hours you think that you would spend per day in online meetings now. For me, it'd be a lot more than 2 hours that I spend in the office, and I'm sure that there are a lot of people who would be feeling around the same. Now, this last one here, this is probably key to what we're looking for now. Millennials will make up 3/4 of the workforce by 2025. So those millennials are sort of born in that 90s and early 2000s. This is a group of people who have come into the workforce where technology has always been king. They are looking for it, they demand it, they're very good at it, and they know how to use it. Very different from older people within a workforce who have had a bit of a hybrid environment where they might have had a phone on the desk, but that was about as far as they got. And then gradually technology kept being brought into the workforce. These are people who now look for it, demand it, and request it. And these are the people that are going to take your business forward from now to beyond. So we need to be able to provide them with the tools that they need to work productively. Now, some of the research, this is just some of the things that have been shown to be keeping business owners up at night. So just looking at a few of these, low employee productivity and engagement, organizational silos and poor communication. These are the areas that can be fixed by unified communications, because you can set up things like Teams channels. You can include people in a lot more conversations through the digital applications. Fragmented business tools and workflows. This is what we spoke about having Slack to be chatting with someone, but having Teams for internal systems, and then having a telephone with a bill from Devolius or Spark to call out from. Having all of these then funneled into just one tool to be able to do everything makes life a whole lot simpler, because all of your staff know what they're doing and how to engage with other people. The ones on the right-hand side here is what we're probably all seeing and what's been written about ad nauseum at the moment. And this is about the ability to be able to keep your staff, keep them happy, and keep them productive in your workplace. We all know about job shortages and the like, so you as a business need to be able to provide the working environment that your customers are going to be looking for. Keeping in mind that millennials are going to be making up 75% of that workforce by 2025 and beyond. So they are wanting they are going to be asking for the type of workplace that they want to see, and you need the tools to be able to manage that. To be enabling this dispersed, remote, and mobile teams. I want to just take a minute and just talk about Microsoft Teams, because it has been the darling of this COVID pandemic. You know, it wasn't released that long before the pandemic came out, and it was just timing was everything for it. It is the fastest growing business collaboration software. If you remember back to an earlier slide, during the pandemic there, it had grown by nearly 900% year on year. It is the software of choice for global organizations. As you can see there, 180 million active daily users. It is always improving in the service and the functionality that is offered. And as you will see shortly, what Access 4 provides is a system that takes Microsoft Teams and improves it another level to give you the exact experience that you want for your customers. So why Microsoft Teams? It can integrate directly into your business phone systems. Most likely, you will have already been using it internally throughout your time working from home to be able to chat with colleagues. What we're looking at now is using this as a continual business system, both internally and externally. You'll already be using a lot of the Microsoft suite of products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc., to be able to do your job. This is just now another level and really getting value for money out of your Office subscriptions. And it is a complete PBX replacement. As I mentioned, what I wanted to take you through now is what we won our Innovation Award for. So we've taken Microsoft Teams, and there are limitations on what Microsoft can actually provide. There are things like call recording that is not yet available natively in Microsoft Teams, and some of the other abilities to be able to move calls around within an office that is lacking currently in Microsoft Teams. So what Access 4 have done, have taken the Teams calling functionality, included behind the scenes the BroadWorks capability, which is what we use to provide all of our calling functionality, and made a bit of a hybrid service so that you as the customer can just use Teams, but you're able to manage everything in the background. You can have call recording, you can have all sorts of different reporting, you can move calls to here, there, and everywhere. You can set up mini call centers, you can do everything that you previously did when you were all in the office, all through Microsoft Teams, regardless of where people are. So we can create the different roles. We can have people who only use it a little bit, having a Teams license, as to people who might be for example, a salesperson who is in and out of the office and on the road all the time. They can have those more intensive environments. They can have a different license, but all still be using Microsoft Teams. So it's about combining the licenses across a workplace to suit the needs of the worker. So that is really what we are looking at today in this modern workforce. So I wanted to just go and have a look at the chat here. So I haven't got any questions. So I might just throw this, there's no questions here at the moment. I might just throw this back open to you, Mike, and finish off by just saying, well, where, if people are interested in this for their workplace, where is it that they can find you and have a conversation about what the next steps would be for them?
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, we would like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join our webinar today. So I do hope that you find today's session to be useful. If you later find that you have any questions, please feel free to contact either myself or our Cackle team, and we'll be more than happy to help out. And yeah, so if you feel that you are ready to take on a journey to do Teams calling or move your existing phone system into the cloud, yeah, feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to have that chat to start the journey. Yeah, so thank you again for your time, and yeah, hopefully we'll be able to chat with you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone.